Hello, my name's Alicia, and my parents gave me a tent at my own housewarming, then told me to leave. They said I was starting a new chapter. What they meant was, "You've paid for the house, now get out." At first, I thought I was just helping, covering bills, groceries, car repairs. But then, my savings vanished, my name disappeared from every account. I found emails, spreadsheets planning how to drain me dry, and when they finally kicked me out, smiling, clapping, pretending it was a gift, I didn't scream, I just watched. But how did I go from standing outside that house to owning it? When the voicemail came, I was rinsing off my dinner plate. My mother's voice, usually syrupy sweet or borderline shrill, sounded strained, low, urgent. "Call me back. It's important." I knew something was off the moment I pressed play, but I didn't rush to return the call. We hadn't exactly been on good terms. The last time I'd seen them was Easter, and even then it felt like I was just another guest. Polite nods, hollow smiles, Skylar scrolling through her phone while I cleaned up. Still, I called back, and 30 minutes later, I was pulling into my parents' driveway, wondering why every time I tried to untangle myself from them, they found a new way to reel me back in. Mom opened the door before I even knocked, her eyes watery but her lipstick perfect. "Alicia, honey, come in." The kitchen was too clean. Skylar was perched on the sofa with a blanket and her phone, as usual. Dad stood by the window, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly like he was rehearsing something. I knew that rhythm. That was the "we're about to drop a bomb" sway. "We didn't want to tell you over the phone," Mom said, already leading me toward the table. "But your father lost his job last week." I blinked. "What? When?" "They eliminated his whole department," she added, avoiding my eyes. I looked to Dad. He just nodded, jaw tight. No detail, no outrage, just a nod. "And with Skylar's tuition coming up," Mom continued, "plus the mortgage and all the other bills, we're stretched thin." That's when I felt it, the shift, the silence after a setup, the collective inhale before they ask for something. Dad finally spoke. "If you could move back home, just for a while, it would really help. Keep the lights on, help with the bills." Mom placed her hand over mine. "Just until we get back on our feet, a few months." I didn't say yes immediately. I asked questions. How much would they need? How long exactly? What about Skylar's part-time job? Wasn't she contributing? But none of those questions mattered. The answer had already been decided. They just needed my consent to make it feel less like a command. "We're family," Mom said, as if that erased the weight of everything she didn't say out loud. I agreed, not because I wanted to, but because I'd been trained to. Trained to say yes when they used the word need. Trained to equate help with "give up everything you've worked for." I gave notice on my apartment the next day, packed my things into storage, gave my landlord a sad little smile, and said I'd be back in a few months. But I didn't believe it. When I walked into my old bedroom, it wasn't mine anymore. Skylar had turned it into her personal walk-in closet. The bed was stripped bare, shelves lined with makeup kits, designer handbags, and shoes I knew she couldn't afford. Her things had been moved into boxes stacked against the wall, but her perfume still lingered in the air. I stood there looking at the space I once dreamed in, and felt smaller than I had at 16. Dad popped his head in, grinning like it was some grand reunion. "Good to have you back, Princess." Princess. That name used to make me feel special. Now it just made me feel trapped. The first few days, I kept to myself. I logged into work from my laptop, answered emails, transferred $1,800 into Mom's account, and stayed quiet. That was the deal, right? Pay rent in the form of saving the family. But nobody called it rent. They called it love. Within a week, my responsibilities multiplied. Groceries were suddenly my job. When the internet bill came late, Dad handed it to me like it was expected. "Can you handle this? We're still adjusting." I did. I handled it. Every single time. Skylar started asking for gas money, then coffee money, then clothes. "Just until my refund check comes," she'd say, flipping her hair like it was a magic trick. I didn't push back. Not yet. One night after dinner, I finally mentioned my concerns. "I might have to cut back a little. My savings are shrinking." Dad put down his fork, his smile disappearing. "You're 30. You're not married. You don't have kids. You've got no real expenses. This is your job now, being here for your family. I stared at him, mouth half open. My job? It's what decent daughters do, he added, stabbing his pork chop like it had insulted him personally. And Mom? She just kept sipping her wine like it was none of her business. Later that night, I sat on the edge of my old twin bed, scrolling through my bank app. The numbers were going down faster than I'd anticipated. Rent, bills, tuition, extras. I was bleeding money, quietly, invisibly, and no one was even saying thank you anymore. Skylar burst in without knocking, grabbed a sweater from one of the boxes, and left just as fast. It hit me then, not as a scream, not even a sob. Just a quiet, nauseating realization. They weren't grateful. They were entitled. And I was no longer helping. I was being used. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Skylar blow-drying her hair in the hallway. The house always felt louder now. TVs on in 2 rooms, music leaking from someone's phone, and doors opening and slamming with no rhythm or purpose. I pulled the blanket tighter over me and stared at the ceiling. Maybe I was just tired. Or maybe I was losing grip on what I used to call home. It wasn't until I checked my bank account that the ground really shifted beneath me. I had logged in just to schedule a transfer for my phone bill. Instead, I stared at the balance for a full minute, not understanding what I was seeing. My savings, over $60,000 that I had carefully built up over nearly a decade, was gone. Not reduced. Gone. Every last cent. At first, I thought it was fraud. My hands trembled as I clicked through transactions. Maybe my card had been skimmed or my account hacked. But no, there it was. One massive withdrawal marked under a familiar tag. Linked access authorized user LaDonna. LaDonna, my mother. I didn't even knock. I walked straight into the kitchen, holding my phone like it was evidence in a criminal case. She was making coffee, humming to herself. "Did you sleep okay, sweetie?" she asked without turning around. I placed the phone on the counter between us. "What did you do with my savings?" She blinked slowly. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play games with me," I snapped. "There's a withdrawal, $62,000. It says linked access." That was for my house. I was going to buy a place before I moved back here. She didn't even flinch. "We are buying a house." "We?" "Yes," she said, finally turning toward me. "Your father and I found a place. It needs some work, but it's in a better neighborhood, good schools, more space. And we've always dreamed of having a real backyard." "Mom," I said, voice shaking, "that was not your money to take." Her smile didn't waver. "You live here rent-free. You're not a child anymore, Alicia. This is your contribution." I couldn't breathe. I turned and stormed outside, pacing the driveway like I was trying to outrun what I'd just heard. My own mother had emptied my account, and she thought I should be grateful for the opportunity. Later that evening, she called a family meeting. We sat around the kitchen table like it was some kind of sitcom. Me, Dad, Skylar, barefoot, scrolling Instagram, and Mom holding a folder of property brochures. "It's a smart investment," she said, sliding one of the glossy photos toward me. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, decent view. I pushed it back without looking. "You stole from me." Dad interjected before she could answer. "You'll thank us one day, sweetheart. We're setting up a better life. For all of us." "For all of us," I repeated. "Except I didn't get a say, or even a warning." Skylar didn't look up from her phone. "You're being dramatic. It's not like you were going to buy a house tomorrow." "That's not the point," I snapped. "You don't get to decide what's done with my money." Mom sighed like I was inconveniencing her with my reaction. "Honestly, Alicia, you've been acting so entitled lately. You're not the only one sacrificing." I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood up. "Don't ever touch my accounts again. I'm removing your access tonight." "You're overreacting," Dad muttered. "We raised you, fed you, gave you everything, and now you act like a victim because we needed help? You didn't ask for help. You took it." Skylar finally spoke, snorting. "God, maybe if you weren't such a control freak, you'd actually have a boyfriend, or friends, someone else to dump your drama on." I left the table before I said something I couldn't take back. Over the next few weeks, things only got weirder. The internet bill used to come in my name. Now it showed Skylar's. The power bill? Addressed to my dad. One by one, my name disappeared from every system I used to pay for. I asked Mom about it once. She just shrugged. It's easier for us to keep track this way. But I'm still paying for it, I reminded her. Which makes it even more generous of you, she replied, rinsing a glass without meeting my eyes. At night, I started keeping my wallet under my pillow, not because I thought someone would steal it, but because I couldn't ignore the feeling that nothing I owned was safe anymore. Not my space, not my money, not even my place in the household. It wasn't the theft that broke me, it was how normal they made it seem. The tension in the house had started to feel like humidity, thick, clinging, impossible to shake off. I went through the motions every day, but something in me had shut down. My smiles were automatic, my responses rehearsed, and every time I heard the words, "Can you help with?" my stomach tightened like a knot pulling tighter with each favor I never volunteered for. One Thursday evening, a thunderstorm knocked out the Wi-Fi just as I was finishing a late report for work. I grabbed my mom's laptop from the dining table, she'd left it charging there, and logged into my company portal. I had 10 minutes left before the system timed out. I uploaded the document and was about to shut it down when something caught my eye. A browser tab still open. Normally, I wouldn't care. But the title of the tab froze me cold. E-Plan, Monthly Pulls. I stared at it, heart pounding in a rhythm I couldn't control. My hand hovered over the trackpad for a full 5 seconds before I clicked. Inside was a thread of emails. Subject line, "How much more before she snaps?" The senders, LaDonna, Russell, Skylar. It wasn't just the title that hurt, it was the tone. Casual, calculated, bullet-pointed. A spreadsheet was attached, labeled E-Plan. Each row marked a new month. Beside everyone, an expected contribution and a method. Groceries, car repairs, emergency dental, tuition spike. All phrased like strategy. One entry read, June, Skylar's car, brake issue. Estimate $500-600, use guilt. Another, July, Russell job lead, didn't work out, ask for bill float. The comments on the side were worse. Skylar had written, try the fainting trick again, worked last fall. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear landed on the laptop. That night, lying in the dark, I traced backward in my mind every emergency from the past year. The time Mom claimed she passed out in the store, and I Venmo'd her $800 for a hospital bill. She later brushed off any follow-up questions. The weekend Skylar claimed she needed emergency dental surgery, another $1,200. I never saw gauze, never heard a complaint afterward. Dad's car towed incident when he texted me from a parking lot begging for $650 before they impounded it. I remember the panic, the guilt, the rush to help. Every one of those entries matched the spreadsheet. I wasn't supporting a struggling family. I was fueling a system of exploitation, custom-built to bleed me dry. I didn't confront them. Not right away. I started collecting proof. Receipts, bank statements, screenshots of messages. I stored them in a locked folder on a USB drive, hidden inside a hollow book in my nightstand. I began recording vague comments on my phone's voice memo app, harmless things, until they were all strung together. I ordered a small safe and kept it bolted beneath my bed. Inside, my ID, debit card, passport, and cash. I'd lost enough already. I wasn't about to let them wipe me clean. Then came the text. Skylar. Hey, I need $500 for a field trip next week. It's required for class. I stared at the message, then typed, Ask Dad. Less than a minute later, he said you'd cover it. You always do. The words glowed on my screen like a neon sign over a door I wasn't walking through again. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my planner and flipped to the end of the month. My birthday was 7 days away. No one had mentioned it. No whispers about dinner or cake. No questions about time off or plans. I wasn't surprised. Birthdays in this house were only remembered if someone could benefit from them. I stared at the empty date box on the calendar. This year, I wouldn't ask for anything. I wouldn't plan a thing. I wouldn't give a single dollar. This year, I wouldn't be giving. I'd be watching. The next few days, I kept my head down. I moved in silence, observed everything. I noticed how my mother's tone only softened when she needed something. How Skylar would linger by my door, pretending to stretch or look for something that never existed. How Dad kept trying to catch me alone in the living room, like he was prepping for a pitch. And sure enough, on Saturday morning, he made his move. I was sitting at the dining table with a coffee, reviewing a report on my laptop, when Russell strolled in with a manila folder. He dropped it next to my mug with the same ease someone might set down a grocery list. "What's this?" I asked without looking up. "Just a little paperwork," he said casually. "It's a cosign, no big deal, just a signature." That made me look. The form was from First State Bank, pre-filled with his information, and mine, a personal loan application, requested amount $18,000, purpose, home upgrades and essential improvements. "Why do you need a loan?" I asked. "For the new house," he said. "Back deck needs fixing, roof's a mess, couple of updates before winter." I closed my laptop. This is the first I'm hearing about it. Russell raised his eyebrows like I was being unreasonable. "Come on, Alicia, it's just your name on the paperwork. I'll be making the payments." "Then why don't you qualify on your own?" He paused for a second too long. "Because my last employer hasn't sent the verification letter yet. Just temporary." "Right," I said, standing up. "Let me see the loan terms. The interest rate, repayment plan." He didn't have them, just the form, just the pen. I pushed it back toward him. "No." He blinked. "Excuse me? I'm not signing this." His entire posture shifted, shoulders tightened, jaw clenched. "We've supported you your whole life, Alicia. One signature, and this is the thanks we get?" I didn't argue, I just walked away. That evening, the air in the house turned cold. Not physically, just emotionally vacant. Skylar didn't say a word when I passed her in the hall. My mother didn't offer dinner. My father pretended I wasn't in the room. I knew what they were doing. This wasn't punishment, it was conditioning. Emotional silence as a leash. Withdraw affection, pressure the target, wait for compliance. It didn't work. The next night, dinner turned into a trial, a tribunal. I sat down to a table already simmering with tension. Mom folded her napkin slowly. "We've been talking," she said, glancing at Dad, "and we feel like, lately, you've been distant, less cooperative." "Cooperative?" I echoed. Skylar kept eating, but her eyes flicked up, amused. "You've always had a chip on your shoulder when it comes to your sister," LaDonna continued, voice sickly sweet. "I don't know if it's jealousy or guilt." "Jealousy?" I nearly laughed. "Of what? Her closet full of things I paid for?" "She's trying," Mom insisted. "College isn't easy. She needs support." "She has support," I said. "From me. Always from me." "You never really helped her like you could have," Russell added, his voice tight. "You've always been a little selfish, Alicia." I stared at the three of them. "You know what's funny? I used to think I wasn't doing enough, that maybe I was the problem. But now I see it. You're not disappointed in me. You're disappointed I stopped being useful." Skylar smirked without lifting her head. "You're so dramatic." I stood. "You've crossed a line." Mom opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "No, don't twist this into some family guilt parade. Don't tell me I'm ungrateful. Don't call this love." The silence that followed felt thick as concrete. That night, I made decisions. I opened a new bank account, transferred every dollar I had into it, changed passwords, cut off autopays. I bought a cheap burner phone and started recording conversations. I documented everything, every receipt, every demand, every lie. This time, if they wanted to play games, I'd come armed. Skylar texted me the next morning. "Why are you acting like a stranger?" I didn't reply. I didn't owe them explanations anymore. One evening, I walked past the kitchen and paused just outside the doorway. Inside, I saw them laughing, my parents and Skylar, like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't drained me, gaslit me, and turned me into a walking transaction. They thought I was bluffing, that this was another moody phase I'd snap out of. They were wrong. I won't warn them again. I didn't show it, but I was counting the days, not to some celebration or milestone, but to an ending, mine. I moved through the house like a ghost that refused to be exorcised. Quiet, present, but never really seen. Then came the invitations. Skylar's birthday was coming up. Her big 24, as she called it. Mom went into party planning overdrive. Caterers were called, floral samples scattered across the dining table, and Dad stayed up late comparing DJ quotes like it was the Super Bowl. And me? I was asked to help address envelopes. Just for family, LaDonna said, like I wasn't part of that category anymore. On the day of the party, the house looked like a Pinterest board exploded. Balloons arched over the new marble countertop I never approved. Champagne flutes glittered under string lights Dad definitely didn't hang himself. I stood in the kitchen helping arrange sliders on silver trays when Skylar floated in, wearing a sequined dress that probably cost more than my car insurance. "Can you bring the napkins to the back patio?" she asked, not even making eye contact. I should have said no. I should have thrown the whole stack in the trash. But I walked outside, dropped them on the bar, and watched as a photographer snapped pictures of my parents and Skylar. There I was, somewhere behind a ficus. When the music got louder, I slipped back inside. No one noticed. I ate cold shrimp from a paper plate in the garage, sitting on a folding chair next to the recycling bin. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just counted. 4 days until I was 31. I didn't expect a cake or a card. But I didn't expect what came next either. 1 week later, the house was buzzing again. This time, for their big housewarming. The house that had been paid for, almost entirely, by my drained savings. I watched from the edge of the foyer as friends and neighbors walked through, complimenting the crown molding, the color palette, the cozy but luxe vibe. "I can't believe you pulled this off," one woman said to Russell, sipping a glass of Pinot. He chuckled, tapping his temple. "It's all about strategy, timing, vision." I stood 3 feet away, not a glance in my direction. Halfway through the evening, just as dessert was served, Mom clinked a fork against her glass. "Everyone, may I have your attention?" People turned. Even the DJ lowered the volume. Russell stepped beside her, smiling like a game show host. "We have a very special surprise for someone who's meant a lot to this family." My stomach dropped. "Alicia?" LaDonna called out sweetly, gesturing me forward. I hesitated, but people were already parting the crowd for me. Russell handed me a large box wrapped in shiny silver paper. "This is for you, a gift for your next chapter." Next chapter? I peeled back the paper slowly. Inside was a camping tent, a 2-person Coleman still in its plastic. I blinked. LaDonna beamed. "It's time you found your own path, sweetheart. Independence suits you." The room broke into awkward applause. Someone laughed. I think it was Skylar. Russell added, "You've been here long enough. It's time to spread those wings." I felt like the floor shifted beneath me, like I was the punchline to a joke I hadn't heard. I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I just nodded, turned, and walked upstairs. No one followed. That night, I packed a small duffel. Just clothes, my documents, chargers. I left everything else. In the kitchen, I dropped the garage key on the counter with a sticky note that read, "Thank you for nothing." Then I booked a hotel 2 towns over. Not much. Just a clean room with a door that locked, and a bed that didn't come with guilt. I moved the rest of my money into a new account, deleted every shared login, changed every password. I sent one final email to my boss to request remote work approval. She responded within an hour. "Take all the time you need. I've got your back." Outside, the night was thick with humidity and silence. I sat in my car for a while, hands resting on the steering wheel, phone glowing in my lap. Then I opened my contacts and found a name I hadn't called in months. A realtor, saved under Plan B. I typed 3 words. "Still got that listing?" The reply came 5 minutes later. "Still available. Want to see it tomorrow?" I said yes before I let myself second-guess it. The motel room was small, just a double bed, a stained dresser, and a weak overhead bulb that buzzed faintly like a tired fly. I curled up on the edge of the mattress with a slice of gas station pizza and a bottle of water. No TV, no noise. Just me and the realization that for the first time in years, no one was expecting anything from me. No requests, no invoices masked as family needs. The quiet was unnerving at first, then beautiful. By morning, I had a to-do list on a hotel notepad. Cancel all auto payments, transfer every cent to a new bank account, schedule a number change, lock down my credit. I opened a burner email under an alias, No more family at anything. I called the realtor after brushing my teeth with a plastic-wrapped toothbrush from the front desk. By noon, I had a tour lined up. The studio was smaller than my childhood bedroom, but it smelled like fresh paint and fresh chances. I signed the lease before I could talk myself out of it. First month, last month deposit. I wired it on the spot. The key fit my palm like it had been waiting. Back at the motel, I packed my things without ceremony. I checked out by sunset, drove 6 miles to my new place, and moved in with nothing but my duffel and a stubborn knot of resolve. I ordered takeout and ate on the floor while my laptop downloaded old receipts and PDFs. I even opened a spreadsheet, my own e-plan. Not for extraction, but restoration. 3 days passed before the first sign of impact. Russell called. I didn't answer. LaDonna left a voicemail. Your father's car was repossessed. Do you even care? I deleted it. Then Skylar texted. You're seriously doing this? This is why you'll die alone. I blocked her. The house began to unravel. Utility notices, late fees, missed payments. I could feel it from miles away, the tension, the confusion. How could their cash cow vanish without notice? Because she wasn't theirs anymore. Then came the letter. A manila envelope slid under my apartment door. No return address. Inside, a printed email from a firm claiming I owed my parents $24,000 in past rent, utilities, and familial contribution. It read like a joke, but it wasn't funny. I scanned the header and laughed out loud. I hadn't done that in weeks. I forwarded it to James, my college friend who now worked for a litigation firm in Charlotte. He called me within the hour. This is laughable, he said. I've seen kindergartners write better threats. I figured, I said, smirking. Just wanted professional confirmation. He asked for documentation. I sent bank statements, Venmo records, every cash transfer from the last 3 years. The total? $43,200. James drafted a response on letterhead. 4 pages. Sharp, factual, impossible to argue. He copied me in on the email and blind copied someone from the state bar. Just in case. 2 days later, a reply arrived. Our clients will not be pursuing this matter further. We apologize for the inconvenience. That was it. No signature, no apology, just retreat. I printed the message on thick cardstock and slid it into a dollar store frame. I hung it next to the thermostat in my studio apartment. The thermostat I paid for, set to the temperature I chose, in a space no one else had a claim to. I wasn't bitter. I was free. It started with a vibration on my nightstand, then another, and another. By the time I grabbed my phone, I had 37 notifications, texts, missed calls, social tags, even an old friend from college messaging. Hey, is everything okay? Confused, I opened my Facebook. Pinned at the top of my feed was a long thread from a burner account. It read like a heartfelt confession. I tried so hard to love my sister, even after she got rich and forgot about us. She left us when we needed her most. Mom cried for weeks. Dad lost weight. Skylar almost dropped out of school, but all Alicia cared about was money. The comment section was a dumpster fire of sympathy, judgment, and nosy people I hadn't spoken to in years. One comment stood out, though. It quoted something word for word I had once texted my best friend Amber in private. Some families don't just break you, they build altars to your guilt. I felt the air pull from my lungs. There was no way anyone could have known that phrase, unless they'd read my messages. Unless someone had gone through my phone, or had access to my cloud backups. I didn't need a detective to guess who. By noon, it had spread. Screenshots of texts, cropped and taken out of context, were floating across multiple platforms. Skylar had cleverly left out her name but made it clear who the selfish older sister was. At lunch, my boss poked his head into my Zoom window. Hey, I saw some stuff online. Hope you're okay. Let me know if you need to take a few days. Take a few days? I hadn't even taken a breath. Later that evening, an angel investor from my startup replied to a pitch update I sent earlier that week. This kind of personal publicity, while understandable, may affect investor confidence, he wrote. Might be worth issuing a clarification. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up every screenshot, every message, every social post. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Defamation Nov. Inside went everything. Timestamps, links, backup downloads. They weren't just smearing me, they were trying to ruin what I'd built. They knew I'd removed myself financially, physically, emotionally. And since they couldn't extract anything else, now they wanted to burn it all down. So I made one move. I sent a single group text. I know what you did. You're not anonymous, and I'm not afraid of you. No one replied, not even Skylar. The next day I got a mass email forwarded to me from a mutual family friend. It was from my mother. Subject line, concern for Alicia's well-being. The body read like a slow-motion punch to the chest. She's been distant, erratic. We worry something's wrong with her. She's never handled stress well. We just hope she knows we're still here, if she gets the help she needs. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Mental instability? That was their tactic now? I added the email to my growing evidence file. If they wanted to drag me into the mud, they'd have to drown in it with me. I drove by the house that evening. My old house. The windows were dark. Weeds had crept up along the porch. And stuck to the wrought iron gate in front was a bright orange notice. Foreclosure repossession pending. I put the car in park, stared for a long moment. I didn't feel joy or pity. I felt readiness. I called the realtor I'd been working with. My voice didn't shake. It's time. Let's buy it. The courthouse was colder than I expected, not just in temperature but in spirit. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the tiled floors and beige walls that looked like they'd never known warmth. It was the kind of place where lives were split, futures decided, and histories erased, with the stroke of a pen and the signature of someone you'd never meet again. No one here was sentimental. No one lingered longer than necessary. I signed where I was told, hand steady, eyes forward. All the documents bore the name of the LLC I'd created a month earlier. Me Holdings, my initials, my boundary line, my declaration. It wasn't just a legal name. It was a stake in the ground. I wasn't here to play small. I was claiming something. The property auction was over in less than 10 minutes. There was only one other bidder, a man in a wrinkled button-up with a Bluetooth earpiece and the air of someone who bought and sold homes like candy bars. He started strong, but the moment he flipped through the inspection report and saw the mildew, the shifting foundation, and the years of unaddressed water damage, he backed off. No fanfare, no drama, just a quiet nod to the auctioneer. And then it was mine. $212,000 for a mansion. Of course, it was a mansion with more problems than walls that held it up, but I knew what I was getting into. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I just didn't care. The baggage was part of the draw. It was broken, but it was mine, just like me. Are you sure you want this place? The realtor asked, pausing as she scanned my ID. Her eyes flicked up from the screen, brow furrowed in something between concern and confusion. I've never been more certain, I told her, my voice low and even. Then I signed the final form, pressed the pen down like I was branding the paper, and handed it back. No hesitation, no second glance. 2 weeks passed. The day I picked up the keys, the sky was a single, unbroken sheet of gray. Thick clouds clung to the mountaintops like smoke that didn't know where to go. The air felt heavy, dense with the kind of silence that comes before a storm, or after a long cry. The house stood exactly as I remembered it from the walkthrough, massive, silent, and absolutely lifeless. The paint on the siding had peeled away like old skin. Several windows were fogged or cracked. A plastic bag hung from a bare branch in the yard like a forgotten prayer. It was the kind of house you could almost hear breathing, just not in a comforting way. I parked the car and sat there for a moment, staring at the front door. Then, in the rearview mirror, I saw movement. Another vehicle pulled up behind mine. Familiar, unwelcome. They stepped out one by one, like ghosts from a life I no longer subscribed to. Russell got out first, older, grayer, thinner than I remembered. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. His expression wasn't angry, it was worse. It was hollow. LaDonna followed, clutching her bag like a shield, her eyes scanning the yard like she expected paparazzi to jump out from the bushes. And then there was Skylar, sitting in the back seat with her arms crossed, oversized sunglasses concealing whatever performance she was rehearsing this time. I stood in the doorway, not saying a word, just watching, letting them feel the silence. Russell was the first to speak, his voice cautious. "We're not here to fight," he said, holding up both hands like I was a live wire. "We just need somewhere to stay, temporarily." LaDonna took a small step forward. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. "We made mistakes," she said, "but you're still our daughter." Skylar rolled her eyes. "It's not like you need all these rooms." I leaned against the doorframe, the cold wood pressing into my back. "Do you remember what you gave me at the housewarming party?" I asked, voice calm. They exchanged confused glances. "A tent," I reminded them. "You gave me a tent. Said it was my fresh start." Russell looked down. LaDonna's jaw tensed. Skylar scoffed. I turned and walked inside briefly, returning with a manila folder. No dramatics, just facts. Inside was a printed list: emergency housing contacts, shelters, subsidized apartments in the county. I'd spent hours putting it together the night before. "I did some research," I said, holding it out. "You might find this helpful." LaDonna looked at it like it was a curse. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said, voice steady. "But you don't get to come back just because I finally have something worth coming back to." "You're really going to do this?" Russell asked, voice cracking. "Turn away your own family?" "No," I said. "You turned yourselves away a long time ago. I'm just locking the door behind you." I stepped back, shut the door, turned the lock, walked away before I could second-guess any of it. Inside, the silence greeted me like an old friend. I sat on the hardwood floor of the empty living room, no furniture, no distractions, just me and the echo of every choice that brought me here. I didn't cry from heartbreak. I cried from release, from clarity, from finally letting go of the rope I'd been pulling for years, waiting for someone to meet me halfway. That night, I wandered through the house, room by room. Each one echoed with ghosts, memories, assumptions, arguments, omissions. But for the first time, I didn't believe in them anymore. They had no weight, no power. Eventually, I returned to the foyer. One last box waited near the door. I opened it, slowly, and pulled out the tent they'd once wrapped in shiny paper and handed to me like a joke I was supposed to laugh at. I carried it across the room and placed it carefully on the mantel, right in the center. Not out of anger, not out of spite. As a reminder, a trophy, a tombstone. I finally gave it the space it always took from me. 9 snow had just started to fall, soft flakes clinging to the edges of the porch railing, when I noticed the envelope wedged into the front door. No return address. Handwritten, no stamps. It was LaDonna's script. Loopy, too neat, the way she used to write passive-aggressive reminders on the fridge when I was a teenager. Inside, 2 sheets of paper. The first was a note. "We've made mistakes, but we're still your family. Please let us in, just for the holidays." The second was a photo. Skylar sitting alone at some coffee shop, staring into the middle distance, her usual performative sadness painted across her face. On the back, someone had scribbled in red ink, "Come home." I stood in the hallway for a long time, letter in hand, before folding both pages and tucking them into the back of a kitchen drawer. I didn't even finish reading the rest. They still thought I could be manipulated with nostalgia, but they were too late. That door didn't exist anymore. 2 nights later, James came over for dinner. He brought homemade lasagna, and we drank wine from mismatched mugs because I hadn't bothered to buy proper glasses yet. We ate in the kitchen, no fancy plates, no centerpieces, just comfort. "You ever think about going back?" he asked halfway through the second glass. I knew what he meant. Not physically, emotionally. I exhaled. "I didn't just meet them halfway, James. I walked the whole damn path, again and again." He didn't say anything, just nodded. "My therapist said something to me once that I wrote down," I continued, swirling the last sip of wine. "She said some families aren't broken. They're functioning exactly as they were designed, to consume someone. And that someone used to be me." James gave me that look again, the one he saved for courtroom victories. Respect mixed with quiet pride. "You don't owe anyone your peace," he said. I nodded. "Exactly." The next morning, I opened my email and saw a message from an old college acquaintance. Small talk mostly, but then a line near the bottom caught my eye. Saw your dad working at one of those storage places off the highway. Man looked rough. Later that week, I heard through a mutual friend that LaDonna's credit application was rejected again. Too much unpaid debt in collections. Skylar apparently was crashing on a friend's couch. The same girls she used to vacation with no longer invited her anywhere. Something about too much drama and burning bridges. Not one of them apologized. Not a single sorry came through a screen or door. But they were all living in the wake of their choices. It was enough. That weekend, I stood in what used to be the formal dining room, the same one where I was once asked to serve drinks at Skylar's party, and put the final coat of paint on the new office wall. The nonprofit was launching in January. Tent to Keys, a resource network for survivors of financial abuse. Real tools, real stories, real hope. I'd found the name scribbled in a notebook during one of my worst weeks, back when I was still sleeping on motel pillows, and wondering how many times someone had to betray you before it was okay to stop letting them. I sat at my desk and opened my journal. The house was quiet again, but not in the way it used to be. This was peace, not suppression, not fear. I wrote one last entry. The house is just walls. What I own now is myself. And that's something they can never take back. And if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that love without respect is just manipulation wearing perfume. It took losing everything I thought I needed to realize I already had what mattered. My boundaries, my voice, and the courage to walk away when staying meant losing myself. Some families are stitched together with empathy and care. Others are held together by guilt, silence, and obligation. I finally stopped confusing the two. So if you're watching this, and you've ever felt like your kindness was used against you, or that your loyalty was mistaken for weakness, I want you to know, you're not alone, and you're not crazy for setting limits. Sometimes choosing yourself is the bravest, kindest thing you can do, especially when the people closest to you are the ones who taught you how to disappear. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut off someone you love to protect your peace? Drop a yes in the comments if you relate, or tell me where you're watching this from. If you didn't vibe with the story, that's okay too. Let me know why and how you think it could have ended differently. If this video hit home for you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we have more powerful stories coming your way. Your support helps us keep sharing voices that deserve to be heard. Thanks for staying till the end. Remember, walking away isn't failure, it's freedom.
Mom, where's the car? I asked in a panic, quickly checking our key case. Only the minivan key was missing. Anita, on the other end of the phone, let out a mocking laugh. All because I borrowed it, of course. It's not like it's at Helen's place or anything. What? I shot back. That car isn't even mine. Hi. I'm Helen Miller, a housewife with one daughter. My family and I moved to this town to coincide with my husband Mark's business trip. We're what you'd call a transfer family, which is common for us. Moving to new places always makes me anxious, especially when it comes to getting along with neighbors. Luckily, the people here have been kind, making me feel welcome. My daughter Ava has settled into kindergarten, and she's already making friends, chattering excitedly every day. I was starting to think we'd be okay here. But back to that phone call. Sorry, Helen, for borrowing the car, Anita continued. It's fine, I sighed. I was just planning to do some shopping today. A few days earlier, I had gone to a department store a bit farther away with a local mom friend. The store had a fantastic selection, but it was inconvenient to get to without a car. When the topic of shopping came up, I casually suggested, why don't we go together? I can drive. We have a minivan that Mark got for family outings. He drives his own car, so the minivan is mostly mine. The minivan was pretty nice, and my neighbors had complimented me on it more than once. Nice car, Helen. You're so lucky to have it. Word got out that I'd been to that department store, and soon after, Anita, one of the first mom friends I made here, brought it up. She's lively and friendly, but she can be overwhelming. At first, she showed me around town, which was sweet. But the more we talked, the more she started bringing up money, especially in a way that made me uncomfortable. My husband's in a decent position, but the pay could be better, she'd say with a smirk. Oh, really? I'd respond politely. Well, he's young for his position. She'd continue, casually flashing an expensive handbag. He bought me this for our anniversary, $22,000. That's nice, I replied, feeling awkward. Our conversations often felt competitive. Anita would drop snide remarks about people's clothes and accessories or gossip about others. She was clearly trying to flaunt her wealth while putting others down. It left a bad taste in my mouth. So when she asked if I could take her to the department store, I hesitated. But her persistence wore me down. Well, if I'm free sometime, I said, trying to be non-committal. She took that as a promise, and soon enough, we ended up going together. The shopping trip was exhausting. We spent 5 hours at the store, but even as I tried to wrap things up, Anita wanted to keep going. Let's go there next, she said, pointing toward another section. Sorry, I told her, I need to get home soon. Ava will be back from kindergarten. She pouted. What? We've barely had any fun yet. I sighed. We've been here for 5 hours, Anita. I really need to go. The entire drive back, she criticized my outfit and gossiped about other moms. Her tone was so condescending that I couldn't wait to drop her off. But things didn't end there. She started showing up at my house unexpectedly, asking to borrow the car for random errands. Can I borrow your car? My foot hurts today, she'd say. Each time, I politely refused, but she always acted like it was no big deal. What's the problem? It's just for a little while. She'd grumble before leaving in a huff. This became a regular pattern. Then, one weekend, Ava had a piano recital. Some of her kindergarten classmates attended the same piano school, which was a bit far away. I had planned to take her there, but I had no idea that this innocent recital would lead to even more drama with Anita. I suggested, should I drive us there, wanting to repay the kindness I had received from the other moms. When I offered, they looked surprised. Are you sure? Not that we believe it, but Anita said you find it annoying to drive for kindergarten events and only do it because we ask you. I was taken aback. What? Really? I couldn't believe it. Apparently, Anita had been spreading rumors, claiming that I didn't like driving for the group and had been refusing to lend my car out of spite. It was a form of retaliation. I quickly explained the situation, apologizing if I had made anyone uncomfortable. I'm so sorry it could seem that way. I never meant to cause any trouble. One of the moms reassured me, Helen, you don't need to apologize. We didn't believe it. Another added, really, it's fine. I don't mind driving everyone. We all go to the same places anyway, and we like getting along. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I'm truly sorry if I caused any misunderstanding. We're sorry too, one of them said. We shouldn't have let those rumors bother us. Thanks for always helping out. I was relieved that the misunderstanding with my mom friends had been resolved, but Anita's actions still unnerved me. Without that conversation, I might have remained distant from the other moms, thinking they were upset with me. To Anita, I was just a convenient source of transportation. After that day, I began keeping my distance from her, and it seemed the other moms did the same. But I had no idea things were about to escalate. One day, Ava and I planned to go to the mall. As she rushed to the garage, she suddenly yelled, Mom, where's the car? Confused, I went to check, and sure enough, the minivan was gone. Mark hadn't taken it. He always let me know when he did, but he had been out of town on a business trip for days. I rushed to the key case and realized that the minivan key was missing. No way, I whispered, my heart racing. Fearing the worst, I immediately called the police. They arrived quickly and began checking security cameras in the area. But unfortunately, our garage was in a blind spot. Identifying the thief might take some time, they told me. I called Mark, who promised to come home right away. Our mall trip was canceled, leaving Ava disappointed. The next day was a holiday, so we stayed in and baked, which cheered her up a bit. But I couldn't shake the anxiety gnawing at me over the missing car. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. It was Anita. I was too busy discussing the situation with Mark to deal with her. Sorry, Anita, I can't talk right now, I said. Oh, is this about the minivan? She asked, her voice dripping with mockery. My stomach dropped. How do you know about that? I asked, completely startled. She laughed. Because I borrowed it, of course. It's not like it's at Helen's or anything. I was stunned. What? How could you say that? How did you even get the keys? Suddenly, it clicked. Yesterday, I had hosted a small tea party with the other moms to discuss a class event. It wasn't even my idea. It was Anita's. At one point, she had excused herself to use the bathroom, and I remembered thinking she'd been gone for a while. But I hadn't thought much of it at the time. Was it during the tea party? I asked, my mind reeling. Yeah, duh. With such an obvious key case, it's like you were asking me to borrow it, she said, her tone casual. That's theft, Anita. I shot back, furious. Huh? Well, it's your fault for not lending it to me when I asked, she said. Anyway, I'm on a trip now and won't be back until the weekend. I'll return it then. That's not okay, I shouted, but she abruptly ended the call with a smug bye. I stood there speechless. On one hand, I felt relieved the car wasn't gone for good, but on the other, I was shaken that a so-called friend could do something so brazen. I explained everything to Mark, who listened calmly. With a wry smile, he said, I really want to understand what kind of morals people have. Yeah, being taken advantage of like this is exhausting, I sighed. Don't worry, he said, I'll handle it. And honestly, you wouldn't want to keep driving a car that's been misused, right? I was thinking of returning it to the company soon anyway, so this works out. Our minivan hadn't actually been purchased by us. Mark works for a major car company and they provided the vehicle for us to use and test drive. He'd been planning to return it soon, and now it seemed like the perfect time. Although the car wasn't technically ours, we were allowed to use it as part of an unusual employee benefit. However, when someone else uses it without permission, it's considered theft, and it could pose a risk to the company. Mark assured me he would handle the situation through his company. When I asked if the company would really get involved for someone unrelated, he simply smiled. Normally, no. But this case is special, he said cryptically. I was confused, but he reassured me. Don't worry. Leave it to me. We decided to wait until the weekend for Anita to return the car. However, 2 days before the promised return date, Anita called again. Sorry, I had a bit of an accident and the car's been towed, she said nonchalantly. I was shocked. Anita explained that she had been in an accident while traveling. Fortunately, no one else was involved, though she had sustained minor injuries. But the car was severely damaged. Despite her lack of remorse, I asked, You'll compensate for the car, right? Her response was infuriating. Huh? I got hurt and my medical bills are expensive. It's tough with just my husband's earnings, and you still want compensation. Anita, who had started this entire mess by taking the car without permission, continued to make excuses. She dodged my questions about her injuries and the car's condition. When I told Mark about her excuses, he sighed, She's really hopeless. Maybe we should talk to her husband. The next day, Anita and her husband, Eric, came to our house. Eric apologized profusely. I'm deeply sorry for my wife's behavior. I've also troubled my division manager and want to apologize. If we could just overlook this, we'd be grateful. It was then that I learned Eric worked for the same company as Mark, though in a lower position. Mark was his division manager. Eric had a position, as Anita had bragged, but Mark outranked him. When Mark found out Eric was Anita's husband, he contacted him at work to discuss the situation. That's when everything came to light. Anita had falsely claimed that the accident was my fault, saying she had only been a passenger in the car and was trying to demand leniency. Eric, furious after learning the truth, had brought her to our house to apologize. We will definitely compensate for the car. I'm terribly sorry for the trouble, Eric said. I'm not angry with you, Mark said firmly. It's Anita who needs to apologize. Anita, unable to keep quiet, snapped defensively. I didn't know Helen's husband was a division manager. You've only recently moved here, right? Don't tell me you've been lying. She continued, besides, with a minivan like that, Helen must be rich. A little generosity wouldn't hurt, right? I immediately interjected, That car isn't ours. What? Anita looked shocked. Mark calmly explained, The car is provided by the company. It's not ours. It's part of a special program unrelated to my department. It's a company car, not a personal vehicle, so a settlement is out of the question. Her face went pale as she began to realize the seriousness of the situation. Mark then confronted her. What you did is unmistakably theft. You sneaked into our home, stole the keys, and used the car without permission. Then you damaged it. This is beyond common sense. We'll be discussing this with our superiors and considering the consequences. Wait, what's going to happen to me? Anita cried, clinging to Eric. But Eric, fed up, pushed her away. Anita, I can't deal with this anymore. We'll discuss our future at home. What do you mean, our future? Anita wailed. Eric turned to us, his expression grim. Division Manager Miller, Mrs. Miller, I'm truly sorry. We will compensate the company for the car. All right, Mark said. We'll discuss it further at the office. Eric apologized several times before dragging a protesting Anita out of our house. The commotion had attracted the attention of the neighbors, who stood whispering among themselves. After they left, Mark, with a wry smile, explained more about Eric. He's an excellent subordinate, but often talks about his home troubles during company dinners. When I mentioned his name, I realized he was married to Anita. I've been trying to find a way to help him, but this incident might change their relationship. Indeed, the company billed Anita for the extensive repair costs, and she ultimately agreed to pay. Eric decided to divorce her after the incident, despite her pleas. He contacted her parents, explained everything, and they took her back home. Anita's parents, who were very strict, covered the repair costs, and Anita is now working to pay them back. Eric, who wasn't at fault, kept his job and continues to work diligently under Mark. As for me, my relationship with the other moms grew closer after Anita's departure. They sympathized with me, saying it must have been tough. Those who had believed Anita's lies apologized to me, saying sorry about that. They now understood that all the rumors Anita had spread were false. Mom, I'm leaving. Ava called out one morning. Okay, have a good day. I replied with a smile, feeling relieved by the return of peaceful days. With the drama behind us, I'm determined to continue supporting my family as a housewife. Her stomach, crying out in pain. The paramedics arrived quickly, placing her on a stretcher. One of them turned to me and asked, "Is she your daughter? Can you come with us?" Beth, despite her evident agony, looked at me with a pained expression and corrected them. "She's just my son's wife, not my daughter." "Ma'am, she's your relative, isn't she? Will you come with us?" The paramedic asked again, directing the question to me. I met Beth's gaze with a cold glare. "I will not accompany her to the hospital," I replied firmly. "My name is Carla, and I'm a 27-year-old housewife. My husband Leon and I have been married for 3 years. We met at a mixer hosted by a mutual friend. Leon, with his cheerful and outgoing personality, was someone I admired from the start. Unlike me, he could talk to anyone with ease. I never imagined he'd be interested in someone like me, quiet and reserved. But to my surprise, he started approaching me. "Carla, are you interested in camping?" he asked one day. "I've only been once, back when I was a student," I replied. "I see. I love camping. Why don't we plan a trip with some friends?" he suggested. The idea excited me, and we went camping with a small group. It was on that trip that we began to grow closer, eventually leading to dates and dinners together. 2 years into our relationship, Leon proposed, and I happily accepted. When it came time to meet his parents, I was nervous but hopeful. His father, Walter, was kind and welcoming, much like Leon. His mother, Beth, was quieter, smiling politely but not saying much. I mistook her reserved demeanor for shyness, thinking she might be similar to me. That illusion shattered during a family gathering at their home. As soon as Beth saw me, she ordered, "Hurry up and come to the kitchen and help me." Once there, she snapped, "You're such a slowpoke. Can't you just get on with it?" Her tone was harsh, and she continued to criticize me throughout the evening. I tried to keep up, but Beth was relentless, making me clean every corner of the house, even places no one would see during the party. By the end of the night, I was exhausted, but Beth wasn't finished. "There's an empty glass. Go pour the beer," she commanded. Then she turned to the other relatives and remarked, "Please excuse Carla. She's really an uncaring wife, spoiled from her upbringing. It's hard teaching her everything." She laughed cruelly, casually insulting both me and my parents. I glanced at Leon, who was drinking and chatting loudly, seemingly oblivious to my distress. His indifference hurt more than Beth's words. This was my first real encounter with Beth, and it was nothing like the quiet, gentle impression she had given when we first met. It became clear that she had been assessing me all along, perhaps deciding what kind of daughter-in-law I would be. Later that night, Walter approached me. "Carla, I'm sorry for the hard time Beth gave you. She has a strong personality, and she's very attached to Leon since we had him late in life. I hope she didn't cause you too much trouble." "It's not a problem," I replied, trying to ease his concern, though deep down, I was starting to realize the challenges ahead. Despite everything, I wasn't completely dissatisfied. I knew some mother-in-laws could be difficult, and I had heard stories of uncooperative husbands, but Leon was kind at home, sharing household chores and being generally supportive. Over the next year, we visited his parents only on holidays, but everything changed when Walter had a serious accident and needed care. Beth asked us to move in with them, but I never imagined it would turn out to be the biggest mistake of my life. When we moved into my in-laws' house, Beth initially greeted us kindly. "Thank you for coming and taking care of us," she said, her voice warm and welcoming. Just as I started to believe her attitude had changed, she quickly added, "Now, I want you to start doing some housework right away." "Excuse me?" I replied, taken aback. "You're the wife who married into this family, so it's only natural for you to do the housework. I need you to vacuum and wipe the floors immediately. What are you waiting for? Hurry up." Beth's tone turned sharp, and I found myself being treated like a servant from the moment we moved in. It didn't take long to realize that Beth's behavior at the family party wasn't a one-time thing. This was who she truly was. She began pushing all the household chores onto me, despite my full-time job. I couldn't manage the housework during the day, so Beth would pile it all on me after I returned home from work. Every evening, I'd come home exhausted, only to wash the dishes from Beth's lunch, cook dinner, clean the bathroom, and prepare a bath for her. I also had to clean the rest of the house, including the toilet. In the mornings, I was up early to make breakfast and prepare lunch for Leon. As Beth insisted, don't feed him unhealthy pre-made meals. If I didn't comply, she would get furious. Day after day, I forced my tired body to keep up with these demands, but as time went on, my work and the quality of my housework started to suffer. "You're so slow. Can't you do anything right? You're absolutely useless." Beth's verbal abuse became more frequent, and I grew more and more exhausted, both physically and mentally. The most painful part was my husband's indifference. He never defended me or acknowledged the toll this was taking on me. In fact, since we moved in, he had stopped helping around the house entirely. If Liam had continued to help like he used to, it might have made things more bearable. But even when Beth wasn't around, he showed no interest in supporting me. Eventually, I had no choice but to quit my job. The pressure of balancing work and housework became too much, and I knew my body couldn't take it any longer. Beth had always criticized women working in offices, so she was pleased when I resigned. I hated the idea of being alone with her all day, but I had no other option. However, quitting didn't ease my burden. In addition to the housework, Beth started making me take care of Walter. "You handle the rest," she'd say before heading out for shopping or lunch with friends, leaving me to care for him alone. Walter, seeing how overwhelmed I was, apologized. "Carla, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize she was so unreasonable. I never thought Beth would make you do all this," he said, clearly shocked. He seemed heartbroken that his own wife had abandoned him like this. I felt sorry for Walter, so I did my best to care for him, even though it added to my already overwhelming workload. We spent a lot of time talking, and he shared stories about Beth and Leon's childhoods. Those moments were the only times I felt at ease. The rest of the day was a constant struggle. Meanwhile, Beth's demands and Leon's indifference only grew. When I tried to talk to Leon about Beth, he brushed me off with, "I'm tired from work," and never really listened. He had stopped being kind to me, becoming more like his mother, ordering me around and criticizing everything I did. I started considering divorce, but with no job and my family living in a rural area far away, I felt trapped. I couldn't bring myself to make such a drastic decision. A year passed in this miserable routine. Walter's health continued to decline, and he became weaker and weaker. In contrast, Beth and Liam only became more demanding. I was at my breaking point when Walter, in a moment of clarity, said to me, "Carla, thank you for everything. You've worked hard enough. It's time for you to live your own life." I was stunned. "What do you mean?" I asked. Leave, Liam. Leave this house. Huh? You're still young. Don't waste your life here, but I don't have the strength to live on my own. Leave that to me. Take the key to this house and leave. I bought an apartment for you, Carla, Walter said, handing me a small key. What? I was shocked. Thank you for taking care of me until now. I want to show my gratitude, he continued, his voice filled with sincerity. Oh no, I can't accept this, I protested. If you stay here, Carla, you'll only suffer more. Please, let me thank you properly. I don't want to have any regrets, Walter insisted. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to accept Walter's generous offer. Quietly, I began preparing for the move, packing my belongings little by little to avoid drawing attention from Beth and my husband. It took a long time, but eventually I was almost ready to leave. That's when it happened. One Saturday morning, Beth suddenly doubled over in pain, clutching her stomach. She had been out the night before, indulging in raw oysters with her friends, and it seemed they were the cause of her agony. As she writhed on the floor, my husband began packing his large suitcase. I assumed he was going to take her to the hospital, but instead he said, "Well, I'm off to go camping. Take care of Mom and Dad." I was stunned. His own mother was suffering, and yet he prioritized camping. I was too exhausted to even argue, so I let him go without a word. Meanwhile, Beth was on the floor, screaming, "Call an ambulance." I had no choice but to do as she asked. When the paramedics arrived and placed Beth on a stretcher, one of them asked, "Is she your daughter? Will you come with us?" Beth, still in pain, looked at me and corrected them. "She's just my daughter-in-law, not my daughter." The paramedic, puzzled, turned to me again. "You are her relative, though. Can you come with us?" I looked at Beth coldly and replied, "I will not accompany her to the hospital. She's bullied me, forced me to care for Walter alone, and made my life miserable. I'm leaving this house, and I'm getting a divorce. I'm a stranger to her now." Beth was speechless, her eyes wide with disbelief. But I didn't care. I went to my room, packed the rest of my things, and prepared to leave. The paramedics awkwardly carried Beth out as I finished my packing. Before leaving, I visited Walter's room one last time. "Walter, thank you so much for everything," I said. "That's my line. Thank you, Carla. Be happy," Walter replied, waving me off with a gentle smile. I waved back, then left the house, finally free. I had already arranged for a care helper to look after Walter when Beth wasn't around, so I knew he would be in good hands. I moved into the apartment Walter had given me, a beautiful, spacious place that must have cost at least $300,000. By the time the move was complete, the apartment was officially in my name. Now all that remained was to find a job and start my new life. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was my husband, his voice panicked. "Hey, why didn't you go with Mom to the hospital?" "She's furious." "There's no obligation for me to accompany her," I replied calmly. "I'm going to be a stranger to her soon, remember." "Huh? I'm divorcing you. The papers are on the table." "What? Why? We're really done for if you do this. If you don't understand why, then it's hopeless. You've ignored Beth's constant abuse toward me, and now you've started treating me just like she does. I can't stay with someone like that." "But even if you get divorced, you have nowhere to go," he protested. "Actually, I have a house. Walter gave me a condo." "What?" His shock was palpable. "From now on, you'll have to communicate with me through my lawyer." With that, I hung up the phone. Apparently, my husband and Beth caused quite a scene after that, but Walter simply ignored them. In the end, he filed for divorce from Beth and kicked both her and my husband out of the house. He sold the family home and moved into a care facility. Beth and my husband lost everything. Meanwhile, I filed for alimony due to the abuse and harassment I'd endured, leaving them in debt and living in poverty. On the other hand, I found a new job and now live comfortably in the condo Walter gave me. From here on, I'll focus on living a peaceful life and finding what truly makes me happy. Why some people feel the need to torment their own daughter-in-law, I'll never understand. But I'm glad I took care of Walter, and I'm incredibly grateful for the gift he gave me. I hope to find a wonderful man someday and build a happy life. Your son got me pregnant. You better pay me $30,000 in alimony. That's what I was told the moment I picked up the restaurant's phone. The voice on the other end belonged to a young woman. who launched into a tirade without even bothering to introduce herself. Her aggressive tone and wild accusations made me think it was just another prank call, the kind you get when you run a popular restaurant in New York City. My name is Melissa Brown, and while I don't want to sound boastful, my restaurant has been featured on national television and in magazines. With that kind of exposure, we're always fully booked, but it also means dealing with a lot of nuisance calls and aggressive sales pitches. I've become pretty sloppy with handling them, assuming they're just more of the same. But when this woman claimed my son had gotten her pregnant, I was caught off guard. I do have a son. The idea that he could have done something like this seemed absurd. Despite thinking it was a prank, the shocking nature of her accusations piqued my curiosity, so I decided to listen, at least for a little while. I had an abortion. What are you going to do about the trauma I've been through? Are you going to pay for the surgery too? She demanded. First of all, may I ask who I'm speaking to? I asked, trying to keep my tone polite despite the bizarre situation. Even with prank calls in the service industry, you have to maintain a certain level of decorum. It wouldn't do to have our conversation recorded and exaggerated online. I'm a customer at your restaurant. Is that seriously the first thing you ask after your son hurt me? Your family has no sense of decency or compassion, she fired back. I find it hard to believe my son would do such a thing, I replied, glancing over at my staff, who were watching me curiously. They could tell this wasn't the usual dinner reservation call. I smiled and waved at them to assure them everything was fine. Your son assaulted me on a dark street, and you recognized him in the dark. Are you sure it was my son? I asked, trying to reason with her. Don't play dumb. I'm absolutely certain it was your son. I've been terrified ever since. I can't even go out alone anymore. What are you going to do about this? She started giving details about the alleged assault, but her story was hard to believe. I think you might be mistaking my son for someone else. But this is a serious accusation. Can we meet in person to discuss it? I suggested, knowing that most prank callers would back down when faced with the prospect of a face-to-face meeting. You want me to meet with a criminal's parent? How dare you suggest that to a victim? She shouted. But I'd like to verify your story in person, I insisted. Are you saying I'm lying? She retorted angrily. That's not what I meant. I replied, though I wanted to tell her she was lying. Instead, I held back and kept my tone neutral. But she continued to berate me, questioning how someone like me could run a business. Why don't we meet and talk about this anyway? I suggested again, hoping to bring an end to the call. But she refused, no matter how many times I proposed it. So, what do you want me to do? I finally asked. Pay me $30,000 in alimony, she demanded. But this is clearly a case of mistaken identity, and I can't afford that much money, I explained. You can pay. I know your business is thriving. Pay up or I'll sue you, she threatened. Even though my restaurant is doing well, $30,000 is a significant amount, and I had no intention of paying. Are you sure you want to involve the police? I asked calmly. There was a brief silence on the other end before she replied. If there's evidence, you'll pay the alimony, right? I would consider it, I answered, knowing she wouldn't have any. Then wait, I'll bring the evidence, she said, hanging up abruptly. Owner, are you all right? Mr. Murphy, one of my employees, asked, noticing my discomfort. It's nothing, just a prank call, I assured him, even though I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that this wasn't over. A few days later, while preparing for dinner, I had almost forgotten about the call when Mr. Murphy approached me with a manila envelope, his face pale. What's the matter? You look like you've seen a ghost, I said. Owner, this came for you, he replied, handing me the envelope. Inside was a letter addressed to me. Ms. Melissa Brown, I was assaulted and impregnated by your son. Please transfer $30,000 as alimony. Below the demand were bank transfer details and the name Karen Williams. Mr. Murphy was visibly shaken after being the first to see the contents of the unsealed letter. Calm down, I said. You know my son, right? He nodded, relieved. But then I noticed there was something else in the envelope. A pregnancy test. What's that? Mr. Murphy asked, his voice trembling. The commotion caught the attention of the other employees, who looked on with concern. Could it really be the owner's son? I could see the doubt in some of their eyes. But they quickly understood when I explained the situation. I put the items away on my desk and went back to work, though the uneasy feeling lingered. A few days passed without transferring any money. But then Mr. Murphy came to me again with another manila envelope, looking fed up. "Owner, this came again," he said, handing it to me. "I see. Check the contents and put it away in the usual place," I instructed him. These harassing letters started arriving multiple times a day, filled with threats and insults. "Are you planning to run and hide? The owner is the parent of a criminal. Her son got a college girl pregnant and didn't even apologize. The owner of this restaurant is a heartless, cruel woman with no sense of responsibility. It's your fault your son turned out like this. I'll make sure no customers come to your restaurant. It's for the good of the world." The threats escalated, but thankfully, no one had claimed anything was actually wrong with our food. The constant anxiety of being set up was exhausting, and it was starting to show in our business. I noticed something alarming. Vacant seats were becoming more common at lunch. The number of customers was gradually but noticeably declining. "It's unusual," I thought to myself. Today, we even had 2 tables empty. My thoughts drifted to the fresh ingredients in the kitchen, waiting to be used. "Owner," Mr. Murphy called, interrupting my thoughts. I looked up to see him approaching with his laptop in hand. "Take a look at this review site," he said, his voice heavy with concern. On the screen were the latest reviews, filled with harsh and slanderous comments. Terrible customer service. They don't listen, especially the owner, who seems to be getting full of herself after being on TV and in magazines. The food is getting worse. Last time, the soup tasted so plain. I even saw an employee drop a piece of meat before grilling and sneak it back onto the plate. Every single day, more poor reviews were posted, causing our star rating to plummet. I realized I was shaking with anger. "This is unacceptable," I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. Why should this restaurant, which we've worked so hard to build to please our customers, be attacked with such baseless accusations? "Are the preparations progressing?" I asked Mr. Murphy, my voice colder than usual. "Yes, they're almost completed," he replied. Hearing this, I couldn't help but smirk. It had been a week since we discovered the slanderous comments on the review site, and since then, the number of customers had continued to dwindle. When I stepped into the dining area, I noticed Mr. Anderson, one of our regulars, sitting at the counter next to a young woman. "Mr. Anderson, thank you as always," I greeted him with a smile. "It's tough for you lately, Melissa," he said sympathetically, "but don't lose hope. I'm on your side, and will support your son as he atones for his actions." "What?" I was taken aback, completely blindsided by his words. "Well, I noticed it's quieter here than usual, so I wondered what happened. Then this young lady here kindly showed me a webpage about your restaurant," he said, gesturing to the pretty woman in her early 20s sitting next to him. "I really feel for you. I love this place, so I thought I'd come more often to help out in any way I can," she added, smiling sweetly. I recognized her. She'd been frequenting the restaurant recently. "Excuse me, but what's written there is a misunderstanding," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The regulars were wondering why the place has been so empty lately, so I explained it to them, she said nonchalantly. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "You've been spreading rumors online, and now you're telling our patrons?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "Wow, that's scary," she said, feigning innocence. "The internet says the owner is a terrible person. I thought it wasn't true, but it seems you really are like the parent of a man who assaulted women. Maybe you should apologize if you think you did something wrong." She twisted away from me as if she expected me to strike her, even though I hadn't moved a muscle. "Miss, that's not a nice way to talk. Louis is probably just tired from everything that's going on," Mr. Anderson said, trying to defend me. But that wasn't the point. I was about to explain that the real issue was far more serious when suddenly her bag slipped from the back of her chair. It must have shifted while she was twisting around. Despite my simmering rage, my instincts kicked in, and I moved to pick up her bag. That's when I saw it. Karen Williams. The name on the student ID card that had fallen out stopped me in my tracks. "No worries, I'll pick it up myself," she said quickly, reaching for the bag and the ID. "But I got there first." "Hey, give it back," she demanded, her voice laced with panic. But it wasn't a mistake. The name on that ID was the same as the one on the letter with the pregnancy test, which she had sent as so-called evidence. "So it was you," I said, my voice low with realization. "I've been looking for you, Karen Williams." I must have swapped it with a friend's by mistake. "I'm not Karen," she stammered, clearly flustered. Your face and the one on the ID are the same. Interesting, so you're a student at Central College? I pressed, holding the ID up. No, I'm telling you, you're mistaken, she insisted, but her growing panic was obvious. Beside her, Mr. Anderson looked puzzled, completely unaware of what was unfolding. I'm going to sue you, I announced, my words causing a few scattered patrons to turn and look. What? What did I do? She asked, trying to maintain her composure. I believe you know exactly what you did. Since we're all here, why don't we let everyone know? I said, looking around the bar. It was mostly filled with regulars, and while it was comforting to have loyal customers, the sight of so few new faces fueled my anger toward this young woman for disrupting our business. Let me start. Are you the one who called claiming my son assaulted you and got you pregnant, demanding alimony? I asked, glaring at her. Yes, that's me. I'm the one your son assaulted, she admitted, surprisingly easily. What? You want to embarrass me in front of all these people? This could backfire, you know, considering the reputation of your restaurant, she said defiantly, crossing her arms. Her attitude only served to ignite my fury further. Mr. Murphy, bring everything over, I instructed, my voice cold as ice. He hurried off and returned with a laptop from the office and a stack of envelopes and documents about 4 inches thick. Was it you who kept sending harassing letters to the restaurant over and over again? I asked, narrowing my eyes at her. The air in the restaurant was thick with tension as everyone awaited her response. I began reading some of the letters aloud, ensuring everyone in the restaurant could hear. Pay up or run. This owner is a criminal's parent. Her son impregnates a college girl and doesn't even apologize. Poor souls being forced to eat food from this woman's restaurant. I'm sure I'm going to make customers stop coming here. It's for the greater good. The harsh words left some of the regulars visibly shocked, covering their mouths in disbelief. This was outright blackmail. There's no proof that I sent those letters. Maybe someone else who heard the rumors sent them for fun. The young woman stammered, desperately trying to defend herself. Silently, I opened my laptop and showed her the screen of another review site. Some of you might have seen this, defamation on this review site. You did this too, right? I asked. Where's your evidence? Are you even thinking straight? She shot back, her voice tinged with hysteria. Oh, you seem to love evidence. How about this mess of evidence you've been trying to pass off? I said, holding up the first letter and the fake pregnancy test for Mr. Anderson to see. This is the pregnancy test she brought as evidence. What do you think? Isn't this red line just a marker? Even my old eyes can see that, Mr. Anderson remarked. The customers began to buzz with conversation, though some were still uncertain whom to believe. This might not prove I was assaulted, but it doesn't prove I'm wrong either, she shouted, trying to maintain her stance. I was assaulted by your son. He admitted it himself. It's disrespectful to doubt that. As customers whispered in hushed tones, uncertain of the truth, she started to cry, trying to draw sympathy. Since I'm the victim, it must be true, she insisted. Let me prove it then, my son. He's 3 years old, I said, revealing the truth that left her momentarily speechless. What? She gasped, clearly taken aback. My son may be a bit rambunctious and strong for a 3-year-old, but there's no way he could have assaulted you, I continued calmly. No way. And if you have a big son, you live together, right? I even have a picture, she exclaimed, pulling out her smartphone to show a photo of what appeared to be a young man talking to me at the back door of the store. Oh, isn't that Taylor? Mr. Anderson remarked. See? You do have 2 sons, she said, regaining her confidence. You're wrong, I immediately corrected her. This is my niece. Your niece? She asked, her confidence faltering. Yes, and actually, she's a girl. She's quite tomboyish and often mistaken for a boy, even as an adult. She's a college student, and since she boards at my place, I ask her to cook dinner and pick up my son as part of her rent. If you need more evidence, I can bring her here for you to check, I added, watching as the color drained from her face. And by the way, I've already gathered all the evidence about the harassment letters and the posts on the review site. Evidence? No way, she murmured, looking as though she might collapse. I've already consulted with the police and my attorney, I explained. The first piece of evidence? A letter from you with fingerprints that matched those on the harassment letters. All the posts on the review site were confirmed to be from the same person after a disclosure request. With no escape, she sank to the floor, drained of all defiance. You were just saying that it's better to apologize quickly if you've done something wrong, weren't you? I reminded her. She mumbled something, pale and looking down. But I couldn't make out whether it was an apology. I will contact the police about you. I'll inform your parents and your college as well. Be prepared for a lawsuit for emotional distress and damages, I stated firmly. No, please don't do that. I'm still a student. Please, spare me, she begged. You may be a student, but you're an adult over 18 years old. You will take responsibility for your actions, I replied, my voice unwavering. I can't handle that. Please, stop, she whimpered. Subsequently, I filed a criminal complaint against Karen Williams for defamation, business obstruction, and damages to the shop. It turned out she had been living beyond her means, buying brand-name bags and clothes on credit. When she couldn't keep up with the payments, she resorted to these crimes. As a result, she was expelled from her college. The incident even made the news, and now she's the one receiving harassment after her personal information was exposed. Through my lawyer, we managed to have all the slanderous posts on the review site deleted. Unexpectedly, the uproar turned into a positive outcome, clearing up misunderstandings among my regular customers. The number of customers returned to normal. While the incident deterred new customers, almost no regulars left, despite the lies Karen had spread. It was gratifying to know that her false claims weren't taken at face value. Moving forward, I aim to continue running the restaurant with integrity, meeting the trust of my customers. On a freezing winter night, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I hesitated, wondering who could be visiting at such an hour. When I looked through the camera, I saw a police officer standing outside. Confused, I opened the door, and he said, I found your child on the balcony, so I brought her here. I was bewildered by his words. My daughter is asleep inside, I replied, still trying to process the situation. But as I looked at the little girl standing beside the officer, my shock deepened. She was about 5 years old, with blue lips and trembling from the cold. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her clothes were dirty and full of holes, clearly unwashed for some time. She looked so fragile, and I couldn't understand how she had ended up on my balcony. My name is Janice, I explained. I'm 32, and I live here with my husband and our 5-year-old daughter, Susie. My husband, often away on business trips, had been gone for a few days, leaving Susie and me alone in our first-floor apartment. That night, as the officer stood in my doorway, I felt a deep unease. This isn't my child, I tried to explain, but the officer seemed unconvinced. I'm taking her to the hospital, he said firmly. The girl looked so pitiful that I hurried to grab a warm blanket, wrapping it around her shivering body. Her tiny hands were like ice, and though she bit her lips to hold back tears, I could see the fear and sadness in her eyes. I couldn't shake the image of this thin, malnourished child standing there in pain, as I wondered who she was and how she had ended up on my balcony. That night, sleep eluded me as I worried about the girl. The following morning, my husband called from his trip. Did anything unusual happen while I was away? He asked. Yes, I replied, still troubled. A strange girl was on our balcony. The police took her to the hospital. He sounded frustrated. Why didn't you take care of her yourself? What could I do? She's a stranger, I protested, confused by his reaction. You're a mother too, he chided. You should have taken care of that little girl instead of handing her over to the police. His words left me baffled. How did he know she was so young? We hadn't discussed that detail. I pressed him for answers, but his explanations were vague and unsettling. No, actually, she's the daughter of an acquaintance, he finally admitted. Her mother is gone, and I felt sorry for her, so I brought her yesterday. I thought you would take care of her. What? I was stunned. You weren't on a business trip. Explain this situation clearly. My husband apologized, but I couldn't believe he had left such a small child on the balcony in the dead of winter. Even if she had been warmly dressed, she could have frozen to death. What are you doing, and where are you now? I demanded. He claimed he was searching for the girl's mother, but his evasive answers made me suspicious. When he returned from his supposed business trip, he offered only brief explanations before picking up the girl from the police and leaving her with me. Did you find her mother? What about her father? I asked, still searching for clarity. I haven't found them yet. As for her father, I don't know, he said, his voice evasive. That acquaintance I mentioned. Let's leave it at that. I have another business trip soon. Wait a minute, I protested. What about this girl? My husband ignored my plea to stay and left, leaving the girl behind. Something about his behavior felt off, so I searched through his belongings. In the inner pocket of his suit, I found something shocking. I quickly tried to call him, but he didn't answer. As I stood there, my daughter Susie and the little girl looked up at me anxiously. What's your name? I asked softly. Ashley, she answered nervously in a small voice. She was the same age as Susie, just 5 years old. When I smiled gently at her, she seemed surprised, but then she laughed cheerfully, clutching her rumbling stomach. You must be hungry, right? Yes, she replied. I made Hawaiian plate lunches for Susie and Ashley. They stared at the food curiously before devouring it, eating so quickly that their faces were soon covered in sauce. When I reached out to wipe Ashley's face with a tissue, she quickly raised her hands to her head, as if to protect herself. The motion gave me an uneasy feeling. It's all right, I'm just going to wipe your mouth, I said gently. She looked relieved and allowed me to clean her up, then continued eating with renewed enthusiasm. After finishing their meals, both girls looked completely satisfied. Seeing Ashley's dirty appearance, I decided it was time to clean her up. As I began to undress her for a shower, I gasped involuntarily. Her body was covered in countless bruises as if she had been beaten and pinched. Trying to hide my agitation, I cheerfully led her to the bathroom. As I prepared to wash her, Ashley said, It's okay, I can do it myself, and began washing with cold water. Wait a minute, what are you doing? I accidentally snapped. Ashley looked up at me with a puzzled expression. Ashley always does it like this, she said. Washing with cold water? I asked. She nodded, and as she tried to pour the cold water over herself, I hurriedly stopped her. I washed her entire body with warm, soapy water instead. As I poured the warm water over her, she murmured, It's warm, with a contented look on her face. It turned out that she rarely got to shower at home, and when she did, her mother made her wash with cold water. The fact that she accepted this as normal without questioning it made my heart ache. After her bath, I dressed Ashley in Susie's clothes and neatly arranged her hair. She looked completely transformed. When Susie and Ashley stood together, they looked just like sisters. As I watched them, I couldn't help but notice how much they resembled each other, and it warmed my heart. Ashley was an obedient and gentle child, clearly longing for affection. She would come by my side as I cooked, tugging at the edge of my skirt, and when it was time for bed, she would hold my hand and never let go. Susie also grew fond of Ashley, and the two became as close as real sisters. A week passed, and I still couldn't reach my husband. Ashley's mother had said she knew him, but with so little information, I couldn't keep caring for a child without more answers. Eventually, I gave up on contacting my husband and consulted the police. Ashley was sent to a facility, and as they took her away, tears rolled down her big eyes. My heart ached as I watched her look back at me again and again. Time continued to pass without any word from my husband until I finally made a decision. 9 years later, I was living with my parents, Susie, and Ashley in our family home. I had adopted Ashley after she was taken to the facility, and my parents treated her like their own grandchild, believing she had come to us for a reason. They showered her with love. Susie and Ashley grew up as sisters, blossoming into beautiful young women. Their dream of becoming models came true, and they were now being featured as junior models in magazines, stepping into the glamorous world with vibrant expressions on their faces. One day, the doorbell rang at our family home. When I opened the door, there stood my ex-husband, Philip, looking poor and down and out. A stranger who introduced herself as Joanna was with him. Not wanting to cause a scene in front of the neighbors, I led them inside. As we sat on the living room sofa, the two abruptly began to speak. In truth, Ashley is my child, Philip, who hadn't contacted me in 9 years, said without even apologizing. I was so stunned that I let out a big sigh. She looks just like you. I thought it might be you. So, is that woman over there your partner? I asked, trying to process the situation. Philip nodded and began to tell the story of how he met Joanna. She had been working part-time at a bar Philip frequently visited. Despite knowing he was married with children, they got along, and Joanna became pregnant with Philip's child, eventually giving birth to Ashley. However, Philip lacked decisiveness and didn't divorce me right away. Joanna grew tired of caring for Ashley and abandoned her role as a mother. In desperation, Philip thought of having me raise the child. It was a far-fetched plan, but what surprised me most wasn't just that. "Please give Ashley back to us." My ex-husband suddenly stood up from the sofa, making an outrageous request, almost in tears, and offered a deep apology. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I happened to see a magazine and was surprised. "She's grown up so well. Isn't she popular?" he said, his tone almost pleading. "So what? That has nothing to do with you two," I replied, my voice laced with anger. "But I am Ashley's real mother." "You're just a fake," Jonah interjected. "How dare you say such a thing without contacting me all this time?" I retorted, my patience wearing thin. Then, as if sensing my growing frustration, Philip, who had been on his knees on the floor, grabbed my leg with a pathetic look on his face. "We don't have any money and are in trouble. Ashley's our only hope. Give her back." "How awful. You plan to make her work and live off her." "No way," I shouted, feeling a surge of anger. "What? You're using Ashley to make money, aren't you?" "That's not fair," Philip accused, his desperation evident. "Stop making false accusations. I'm saving the children's money in their bank accounts. Ashley is my child too, and I will never hand her over," I declare firmly. Suddenly, Jonah rose from the sofa, lunging at me with a reckless air that sent a shiver down my spine. "What are you doing to my mom?" "Stop it." Ashley's voice rang out as she burst into the scene. She spread her arms wide, blocking my path, and glared at Jonah. "Ashley, you've grown so beautiful. Remember me? I'm your mom. Let's go home together," Jonah said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You're not my mother. Get out of this house now." Ashley screamed, tears streaming down her face as she clung to me. Although Ashley was very young at the time, it seemed she still faintly remembered the terrible treatment she had endured. "Ashley, dear, that's just a misunderstanding on your part. You were so young back then," Joanna tried to explain, her words flimsy and unconvincing. In response, I pulled out a note and photograph I had found in Philip's suit back then. The note read, "Asterisk, I don't want to raise a child. I can't find Ashley cute. Get rid of her somewhere. If you won't marry me, let's run away together." Asterisk, the photograph showed a young Ashley covered in bruises. I also had a hospital medical report. "Do you still claim to be her parents after seeing this?" I demanded, my voice cold and steady. That's, Jonah stammered, her confidence crumbling. "You wanted to dump a child you didn't want to raise on me, didn't you? You made this precious child suffer such horrors," I accused. "That was all Philip's doing. I didn't know anything about it. I was too young to raise a child. It was inevitable. But anyway, I'll take Ashley back now," Jonah said, her voice trembling. "Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I have legally adopted Ashley, so I am her parent," I stated firmly. "What? That has to be a lie." Jonah's bravado quickly deflated at the mention of the law, but Philip seemed determined not to give up yet. "So if that's the case, I'll break up with Joanna and let's start over. Susie and Ashley are my children. We'll just go back to being husband and wife. So there won't be any problem, will there?" Philip proposed, his words absurd and desperate. "What are you saying? You just want things to go your way. Like I will let that happen," Joanna snapped back, her anger rising. Listening to their exchange, I was first dumbfounded, then furious. "I don't want to have anything to do with either of you, not even for a moment," I said, my voice filled with resolve. "I have more bad news for you, Philip. You and I are no longer married. 3 years after you went missing, I filed a lawsuit and was granted a divorce." "What? What are you doing on your own?" Philip shouted, trying to grab me, but just then the sound of a police car approached. My parents had called the police after witnessing Joanna's aggressive behavior. "The police are here now, so please don't come to our house again," I said firmly. "No way. Please forgive me. I'll give up on Ashley, but at least lend me some money," Philip pleaded, putting on a disgraceful show to the very end. Afterwards, Philip and Joanna were dragged away by the police. I planned to make sure Philip paid the alimony and child support in full. The two of them, cut off even from friends and family, would likely continue to struggle. Though there had been much turmoil, the little girl who once trembled in fear had grown into a splendid young woman. I would live happily with my parents and 2 loving daughters. looking forward to the future they spoke of so full of dreams. My heart shattered when I discovered that the man I had married was a cheater. Jim and I had been together for 8 years before we finally tied the knot. We were the classic high school sweethearts who everyone thought had made it to the finish line. But our story didn't end with a happily ever after. One day, out of nowhere, I found out that Jim was cheating. The revelation came from one of his employees. My husband was a decent businessman in a small city, so for privacy, I've used fake names. I'm Riley, and you'll soon learn more about my husband Jim and my mother-in-law Tina. Jim's employee reached out to me with undeniable proof of his infidelity. I was in denial for a week, but the person who finally snapped me out of it was none other than Jim himself. He came home one evening and casually said, "I want a divorce. I'll be filing soon, but I've already made the decision. I thought you should know, I don't want to be with you anymore." What? Why, Jim? I don't understand. There has to be a reason for this. I just don't love you anymore, he replied coldly. So it was true. He was having an affair. Jim's face turned ghostly white when I confronted him. He clearly hadn't expected me to find out. I don't know if he thought he could simply walk away from our marriage with some flimsy excuse. But when I revealed that I knew about his affair, he looked both shocked and angry. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not in love with you anymore, so we're divorcing. We'll split amicably and keep what's ours." "You think I'll let you walk away without consequences?" I shot back. "I know about your affair, and I have enough proof. I don't care if you leave me for someone else. I've already wasted years on you and not wasting any more. But I will go after your assets, as the prenup states." "Let's not make things difficult, Riley. We don't have to strictly follow the prenup. We can sort this out between ourselves." I knew why he was so against bringing up the affair. We had a prenup in place, at his insistence. He wanted to protect himself in case of a divorce and didn't want me to cheat and get away with it. I agreed because I had no intention of cheating, and the terms seemed fair. But now Jim found himself in a bind, as he was the one who had cheated, and he was desperate to marry his mistress, who, from what I'd seen, looked like a supermodel. Good for Jim, I guess. But the affair had stripped away any love I once had for him, leaving me with nothing but rage. Jim wanted to screw me over and take what was rightfully mine, but I wasn't going to let that happen. Let me be clear about one thing, Jim. I'm going to get what's rightfully mine. I know you don't want to talk about your affair because of the prenup, but unfortunately for you, I already have a mountain of evidence against you. Damn you, Riley, why can't you just leave me alone? Let's split amicably. You were the one who insisted on the prenup, Jim. You can't fault me for trying to uphold it. And why would I let go of the opportunity to take your money? Say what you will, but I will uphold the prenup and bring up your affair. This won't end well for you, Riley. Let me be clear about that. I'll find a way to make things even. I won't let you take my money." Jim's threat hung in the air long after he left the house. I broke down in tears once he was gone, presumably off to be with his mistress. I cried from a mix of anger and heartbreak. How had I chosen such a wrong man? I had wasted years of my life loving the wrong person, but I wasn't going to let him do whatever he wanted. I needed to take matters into my own hands. So I called Tina, my mother-in-law, one of the closest people in my life. Unlike the horror stories I'd heard from others about their mother-in-laws, Tina was a gem, a woman of morals, super wealthy like her son, but the exact opposite in character. She treated everyone with love and respect. Tina was confused about why we were divorcing, and I chose not to tell her everything at first, fearing she might side with Jim. I had some unresolved childhood trauma from being abandoned by my parents, and I was scared of losing Tina too. She did her best to convince us to reconcile, not knowing what had gone wrong. Eventually, I moved out of Jim's house and got my own apartment. Tina was saddened by the situation, but more angry at Jim because he had initiated the divorce. Jim probably thought that once he told his mom everything, she would side with him. He was her son, after all. To be honest, I was afraid of that too. I loved Tina and didn't want to lose her, but she did the exact opposite. One day, Tina called me in a panic and insisted on coming over. When she arrived, she looked distraught. "Riley, I need to talk to you in person. There's something I found out about Jim. I had to tell you." "Is this about Jim cheating on me, Tina?" "Wait, you already know about that?" I had no idea. It's been going on for over 6 months now, hasn't it? I got proof from one of his employees. They even sent me pictures. I found out more later, but it doesn't matter anymore. Oh God, Riley, I just found out yesterday. Jim came to me and confessed. I had no idea you two were getting a divorce. I'm so sorry, Riley. I failed to raise my son right. I feel awful. I'm a horrible mother. Tina started to cry, and my heart broke for her. None of this was her fault. She was a good mother and an amazing mother-in-law. Tina had become family to me, almost like a mother, and I started to cry with her, fearing I would lose her in the divorce as well. But what happened next dispelled my fears. Tina, please don't blame yourself. You've been nothing but kind to me. None of this is your fault. You are a good mother. No, you don't understand. There's more. I'm ashamed to even tell you about this. You'll definitely judge me and my family when I tell you. Tina, I don't think I will ever do that. Whatever Jim does is not on you. If there's anything more you want to share, you can tell me. Riley, my son has gone crazy. He's made a plan to trap you and get you arrested. What the hell? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jim was trying to get me arrested by setting me up. This was like something out of a horror movie. Had I failed to see the real Jim when I fell in love with him? Had I messed up that badly? Tina continued, Jim is planning to hide some of his cash in your new place and then call the cops on you. He says this way he can avoid losing his money and assets to you. Your prenup has a clause that states it's void if both parties are found to be at fault. That's why he's made this plan. He told you everything because he thought you wouldn't reveal his secret. I don't know how delusional he can be. Why in the world did he think I would support him? Riley, I'm on your side. What my son did, and is trying to do, is awful. I'm so ashamed. I'm so sorry. Tina, you don't have to be sorry. Thank you so much for coming to me and telling me everything despite him being your son. You truly are a good person. I don't want to lose you after the divorce. You're like a mother to me. There is no way you're getting rid of me, Tina replied firmly. I was like a daughter to Tina, and her words reassured me that I wasn't alone in this. Riley, your family to me too. Jim can go kick rocks for all I care. Please promise me you'll protect yourself from his schemes. Don't worry, Tina, I said, feeling a surge of determination. I'm not someone to be messed with. Now that I know what Jim's planning, I'll turn his own trap against him. When I shared my plan, Tina didn't object. Instead, she looked satisfied, even relieved. With her approval, I set everything in motion. First, I ordered some surveillance cameras online. My building already had CCTV coverage in the stairwell, so I just needed to secure my apartment. With the help of a friend, I discreetly installed the cameras in every room, making sure there wouldn't be any blind spots. Then, I waited. It wasn't long before Jim showed up, pretending to discuss the divorce. I could barely contain my laughter at how transparent his excuse was, but I played along, acting as if I believed him. While I pretended to be occupied in the kitchen, I watched him head towards my study, slipping something into my desk drawer. I smiled to myself, not confronting him. Let him think he was fooling me. In reality, my cameras caught everything just as I had planned. After a few minutes of half-hearted divorce talk, Jim bolted. Good riddance. His presence was insufferable. Once he was gone, I checked the camera footage. Sure enough, there it was. Jim had planted cash in my desk. I was livid, but also grateful for Tina's warning. Without her, I wouldn't have had any proof of my innocence. I saved the footage and prepared for the next phase of Jim's plan. The next day, as expected, the cops arrived at my door, with Jim in tow. I greeted them with a smile. Hello, officers. And Jim, this is a surprise. How can I help you today? Your husband here believes you've stolen $20,000 from him, one of the officers explained. He says the money went missing after you left his house last week. I kept my composure. I don't know what Jim is talking about, officer. I didn't take any money. I would never do something like that. The officers seemed cautious, wanting to hear both sides. Jim, however, was eager to push his narrative. She's lying, officer. She's always been a thief, even when we were married. That's one of the reasons I'm divorcing her. I looked at him, feigning shock. Jim, you know that's not true. Why are you lying? Don't play innocent, Riley. I know you took my money. It was in my secret drawer until last week, and no one else has been in my house. Well, ma'am, the officer turned to me. Do you know anything about where the money might be? Jim's confidence was evident. He truly believed I was about to be arrested. But I was ready. Officers, I can show you exactly where the money is and who put it there. I have solid proof. The officers seemed intrigued. Okay, ma'am, if you have proof, we'd like to see it. We don't want to make any false arrests. Jim, growing more desperate, interjected. She's lying, officers. She's just trying to wriggle out of this. Sir, we'll handle this. Ma'am, please show us the proof. The officer replied, clearly annoyed by Jim's persistence. I led them to my desk, where the cash was hidden. Jim's smirk was infuriating. He truly believed he had won. See, officers? She had my money all along. You need to arrest her. I stayed calm. Yes, the money is here, but I'm not the one who put it there. I must inform you that I have cameras throughout my apartment. I live alone, so there's no privacy issue. I can show you exactly who placed the money in my desk. Jim's face paled at the mention of cameras. Cameras? We don't need to see any footage. The money was found in your closet. That's enough proof. The officer cut him off. We'll decide what's enough proof, sir. Ma'am, if you have the footage, we'd like to see it. Of course, I said, pulling out my phone. I'm more than happy to show you what really happened. I played the footage, and Jim's panic was palpable. He realized he had been caught, but it was too late. The cameras had captured everything. After the cops reviewed the footage, one of them turned to Jim and said, All right, sir, we've seen the footage. It clearly shows you placing the money in her closet. It looks like you tried to set your wife up for theft. Jim's face went pale. What are you talking about, officers? There must be a mistake. I didn't do anything. She's the one who stole the money from me. One officer responded sternly, Sir, do you realize we can arrest you for making a false report? Your wife can also file a police report for harassment and defamation. Jim's confidence crumbled as fear replaced his smug expression. He started rambling, trying to explain away the footage, his hands shaking as he stumbled over his words. But the cops weren't buying it. After listening to Jim's excuses, the officer turned to me and asked, Ma'am, do you want to press charges against your husband? I could see the fear in Jim's eyes. He realized how badly he had messed up. Desperate, he turned to me, pleading, Riley, we don't have to do this. We can handle this between ourselves. There's no reason to get the cops involved. Why not, Jim? I replied calmly. You were the one who involved the cops in the first place, with no real reason. I have every right to get you arrested. You tried to destroy my reputation by framing me. Jim looked desperate. It was a dumb mistake, Riley. I swear, I didn't mean to get you in serious trouble. I just wanted to get even in the divorce, so you wouldn't keep the prenup. I stared at him, my voice cold. I know, Jim, I can't believe you would stoop so low. I hope your new girl is worth it, because, dear husband, you're getting arrested. Jim's face drained of color. He stammered. Turning to the officers, I said, Yes, I'd like to press charges against my husband. The officers nodded in approval, immediately handcuffing Jim. He began to cry, pleading for mercy. It was pathetic and disgusting, but any sympathy I might have had for him was long gone. His tears and apologies meant nothing to me now. The cops led him away, and I sighed with relief. After Jim was taken away, I called Tina and told her everything that happened. She wasn't surprised, but I felt I needed to warn her about the potential fallout. Tina, he'll get bail soon, and he might turn to you when he's out. There's a chance he'll suspect you had a hand in this. I'm prepared for that, she replied confidently. If he dares to come to my house, I'll tell him exactly what I think, and I'll let him know I was the one who informed you of his plan. Are you sure, Tina? Jim will be furious. He might cut you off completely. But for me, she said, without hesitation, I don't want any connection with him. I'm done with Jim. If he gets mad at me for doing the right thing, that's his problem. Besides, I'm rethinking a few things, like my will. What are you planning to do? I asked, concerned. I'm going to disinherit him, Tina declared. I don't want a homewrecker getting his hands on my money, and I can't forgive my son for trying to ruin your life. I'm done with him. I couldn't hold back the tears after hearing Tina's words. Knowing someone in this world was willing to stand up for me meant everything. Tina comforted me and even promised to take me on a trip once the divorce was finalized. As for Jim's arrest, not much came of it legally. I didn't sue him. Instead, I used the threat of charges to push the divorce through quickly. Because of his arrest and infidelity, the prenup was upheld and I ended up with over 70% of our assets. Jim lost a significant amount of money and had to cover my legal fees as well. By the end of it, he was left traumatized by his own schemes. Jim's affair partner, the woman he thought loved him, left him after realizing he had lost money to me. Their relationship quickly soured, adding a bitter end to Jim's failed plans. Tina and Jim are no longer on speaking terms. At family events, they don't acknowledge each other. After news of the divorce, the affair, and his arrest spread, Jim lost the respect of many family members who found his behavior unforgivable. He's now estranged from several relatives. Tina and Jim had one final argument where she told him she was disarming him. Jim was devastated. He lost his mother, his wife, and his mistress in just a few months. Now he's all alone, trying to rebuild his savings and reputation. As for me, I'm in the best stage of my life. The divorce made me wealthier, and as promised, Tina and I took a trip to Hawaii. It was a wonderful time to bond and relax. It's been a year since the divorce, and we're planning another trip to Spain next month. I haven't started dating again, as I'm focusing on my mental health with the help of a therapist. Life is good, and I'm taking the time to heal, relax, and learn to be on my own again. Hello everyone, my name is Winter, and my husband Kyle is helping me share our story with you. Like many of you, I've had my share of challenges with a difficult mother-in-law. These events took place before Kyle and I got married. But for simplicity, I'll refer to his mom, Holly, as my mother-in-law. Kyle's dad, Archie, also plays a role in this story, but rest assured, he's a genuinely good guy. When I first started dating Kyle, Holly disapproved of our relationship. She's a rather greedy woman and didn't appreciate my simple lifestyle. She was outright rude to me and even attempted to sabotage our relationship several times. Thankfully, Kyle was well aware of her nature and didn't let her meddle in our relationship. Things took a turn when Holly discovered that I come from a wealthy family. My father is a successful businessman, and while we have a lot of money, we don't flaunt it or live a lavish lifestyle. When Holly found out the truth, she suddenly became very friendly. However, I kept my distance because I've always had a distaste for people who cozy up to the wealthy just to gain something from them. Unfortunately, Holly turned out to be one of those people. When Kyle and I got engaged, his parents were overjoyed, especially Holly. She seemed thrilled about our engagement and said, "Wow, Kyle, I must say I'm really impressed with you. You managed to snag such a wealthy girl like Winter." Kyle, unimpressed, replied, "Seriously, Mom, that's what you have to say. Her wealth is the only thing that caught your eye." "Oh no, I'm sure Winter is a nice girl too, but her wealth really makes her an exception. I'm so happy you two got engaged. Actually, I was thinking about hosting a party to announce your engagement. I want to tell the world that my son is engaged. What do you think, Archie?" Archie agreed. "Yeah, I'd like to organize a party too. Consider it a small engagement celebration on our end. You don't have to spend any money, we'll arrange everything. It will be a great way to introduce Winter to everyone before the wedding." Kyle and I thought it was a good idea. "I think that's a great idea," I said. "It would be difficult to talk to everyone on the day of the wedding, and through this party, I'll be able to get to know a lot of people better. It sounds exciting." Kyle added, "I agree with Winter. It does sound exciting. Count us in. I'll be happy to introduce my fiancé to everyone." However, I had my doubts about Holly's enthusiasm. While Archie's intentions were good, Holly seemed a little too excited about the party. To make matters worse, my dad had discovered something unsettling about Holly, and I was torn about what to do with that information. It wasn't something I could easily ignore, but I wasn't sure if I should act on it. As the date of the party approached, my anxiety grew. I wasn't sure how to handle the situation until one day, I received a text from Holly that infuriated me. She demanded, "Just so you know, you need to bring a nice gift to this party. It will be a great way to step into our family. You need to show your status to everyone by bringing an expensive gift and giving it to me." "What? But why, Holly? I thought this was just a party to announce our engagement and upcoming marriage. I didn't know I was supposed to bring a gift." Kyle didn't mention anything about this. Kyle is clueless and doesn't know the etiquette. "We're throwing you a big party, Winter. Since you come from a rich family, The least you can do is bring an expensive gift. And mind you, it better be the most expensive thing I've ever laid my eyes on. I'll know if you try to be cheap, and I won't accept a measly gift from someone who's marrying my son. I still don't understand what an expensive gift has to do with me marrying your son. Why should I give you a gift to marry Kyle? Shouldn't you be the one giving me and Kyle a wedding present? Stop trying to be clever, Winter. You think you're so smart, but you're just a bimbo. I'm only allowing my son to marry you because you're rich. So if you want to make sure your marriage works out, you better keep me happy. So you're saying that if I don't give you an expensive gift, you'll try to ruin my marriage. You can bet on it, Winter. And I don't want just any expensive gift. I want the most expensive gift you can buy. Keep that in mind when you go shopping, and don't give me a reason to ruin your and my son's happiness. I was stunned. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined my soon-to-be mother-in-law threatening to ruin my marriage if I didn't give her an expensive gift. She made the demand with such confidence, as if it were her birthright, acting like Kyle was only marrying me because she allowed it. The most shocking part was that Kyle had no idea about Holly's demands, which was evident from her tone. If Holly thought she could intimidate me into doing as she pleased, she was dead wrong. But I wasn't about to let Holly know that. I simply replied, "Okay then, Holly. If a good gift is so important to you, I'll make sure to bring you one. And I promise it will be the most expensive gift you'll ever receive." There, that wasn't so hard, was it? Holly smirked. "Keep up this good behavior, and I can guarantee your marriage will last. To stay in this family, you need to keep me happy, not Kyle. He usually does what I say, so mind that." "I'll keep that in mind, Holly," I said. "Thanks for letting me know about this gift business beforehand. It gives me plenty of time to arrange for the best." "Well, you better start working on it fast. I'll give you some hints. I usually prefer Cartier over Tiffany, but as long as it's one of a kind, I'll be happy. People need to know how well my son is marrying. God, they'll be so jealous. Anyway, see you at the party, Winter. Bye." With that, Holly was off, probably already dreaming about the most expensive gift she was going to get. Her call had ended my dilemma. I wasn't going to stay quiet about what I knew. This was the perfect opportunity to one-up Holly in the best way possible. But first, I needed Kyle on my side. He knew his mom was greedy, so I doubted he'd object to my plans, but I still needed to tell him everything and get his confirmation. That night, as soon as Kyle got home from work, I pulled him aside. He was a little confused about what was so urgent, but he didn't protest much. I sat him down and showed him the texts I'd exchanged with Holly. As he read through them, his face turned red with anger. "That's it," he said, fuming. "This woman has really crossed all limits today. God, I'm so embarrassed. Winter, I'm so sorry my mom talked to you this way. I swear I would have proposed to you even if she didn't approve." "Don't worry, Kyle," I reassured him. "Your little warning about Holly had me prepared for this. Plus, I know you really love me and won't drop me just because your mom tells you to. You're in the clear." "Mom has truly become a very greedy woman," Kyle said, shaking his head. "I mean, I know she can be demanding, but this is a whole new level of entitlement. I think we should talk to Dad about this. He wouldn't tolerate her disrespecting you." "Actually, I don't think that would be enough for me," I replied. "I have something else to tell you, Kyle. I was on the fence about what to do with this information. But Holly solved the dilemma for me. It's about her, and I think you should know." I went ahead and told Kyle everything I knew about Holly's affair. As I spoke, his expression shifted from shock to fury. He had no idea what the true face of his mother was. But once he knew, he immediately agreed to take part in the plan I had in mind. Now, let me reveal what was really going on with Holly. She had been cheating on Archie. Her affair partner was a wealthy man my father knew well. For the past year, Holly had been sleeping with this man to get expensive gifts and vacations from him. Archie had no clue. He thought her trips were to visit a sick sister. But in reality, she was touring the world with this guy. Kyle and I decided to gather evidence. Since we both have good incomes, we hired a private investigator to follow Holly and collect proof of her affair. The investigator was skilled and provided us with incriminating photos and details. Holly's days of manipulating people were numbered, and Kyle and I were determined to see to that. We didn't reveal anything until the day of the party. Holly had tried her best to organize a posh event, but it was clear she had no real experience in planning something of this scale. When Kyle and I arrived, his parents greeted us, each with different expressions. Archie was excited to celebrate our engagement, while Holly seemed eager to see what I was carrying with me. "Oh my God, here come the two very special people in my life," Holly announced loudly. "The life of the party is here, everyone. As you all know, my son Kyle is marrying this wonderful woman, Winter. I'm so happy to announce their engagement today. Welcome to the family, Winter. I hear you have something to present to us as a welcome gesture." "That's right," I replied. "I have a nice gift for both you and Archie. Why don't you two open it together? Or would you like to go first, Holly?" "Oh, I would love to be the first," Holly said, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Archie isn't that into gifts, you know." "Winter, you really didn't have to bring us anything," Archie said kindly. "It's a special day, Holly," I said, handing her the gift. "I had to make it memorable, so I got the perfect gift for you, and for Archie as well. Go ahead, open it." Holly eagerly took the velvet box, expecting some luxurious jewelry, but as she opened it, her face went pale. She looked at me, then back at the box, her eyes wide with shock. Everyone around us was curious to know what she had received, especially since Holly had likely bragged about the expensive gift she was expecting. "What's the matter, Holly?" I asked innocently. "Don't you like my gift?" "I know you suggested Cartier, but you also mentioned it should be the most expensive gift you've ever laid eyes on. I got you exactly that." What are you talking about, Winter?" Kyle asked, looking confused. "Holly told you to give her a gift." "Yes," I said. "She texted me saying I needed to bring her a nice gift, the most expensive gift ever," she said. "If I didn't comply, she threatened to ruin our marriage." "Holly, you said that to Winter?" Archie demanded, his voice rising in anger. "Why the hell would you do that? And Winter, you should have come to me about this. You didn't need to bring her a present." "Actually, I bought this for you, Archie," I said. "I think you should see it, and I'd be glad if you would show everyone what I got her." Archie, now suspicious, ordered Holly to hand over the box. She hesitated, but his stern gaze left her no choice. Reluctantly, she handed it to him. As Archie opened the box, his eyes widened in horror. Inside were several photos of Holly kissing and making out with her affair partner. I had also included other proof of their romantic trips that the investigator had sent us. "What the hell is this, Holly?" Archie shouted. "Are you freaking cheating on me? Answer me." Aye. "It's not what it looks like," Holly stammered, trying to pull away. "Then what is it like, Holly? These pictures are as clear as day. How do you explain this?" Kyle stepped in. "Dad, I don't think she has the face to accept her own sins in front of everyone. We hired a private investigator and found the truth. Winter's father warned her about seeing Mom with one of his colleagues." "I'm sorry, Archie," I said gently. "I didn't want you to find out like this. But I think it's important for everyone to see Holly's true colors," I said firmly. "She's been playing you, Archie. She's been sleeping with another man and accepting money and gifts from him. We have all the proof." Archie stared at me in disbelief while the room fell silent. The whispers began as people pieced together the truth. "Remember how Mom used to visit her sick sister for days?" Kyle added, his voice heavy with sarcasm. "Well, Dad, Aunt Felix is fine. Those trips, they were vacations with her affair partner." Archie scanned the evidence, his face reddening with rage. The crowd around us shifted uncomfortably, their expressions turning to disgust as they realized the extent of Holly's betrayal. Everyone knew Holly was greedy, but this was beyond anything they could have imagined. Even Archie couldn't overlook this. "How dare you betray me like this, Holly?" Archie's voice was thick with emotion. 30 years of marriage, and you threw it all away for what? Some material things. How could you be so greedy, and to threaten your son's marriage if she didn't shower you with expensive gifts? What is wrong with you?" Holly, now pale and trembling, tried to backtrack. "Archie, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, a small one. Please don't react this way. I swear, it's over. I ended it recently." "Recently?" Archie retorted, his voice rising. "Then why do these pictures have recent timestamps? You told me you were visiting your sister just last month. We called Aunt Felix, and she said you never even came to see her. She wasn't sick." Kyle chimed in, "Yeah, Mom, Aunt Felix is pretty pissed at you. Expect some angry calls soon." Realizing she was cornered, Holly's tears began to flow as she desperately tried to win back Archie's favor. Archie, I know I made a terrible mistake, but it meant nothing to me. Please don't do anything drastic. I really love you, and I'll cut all ties with him. I swear. Don't swear for nothing, Holly, Archie replied coldly. I won't believe your lies anymore. I had my doubts about you, but I never thought you'd cheat on me. Your greed has destroyed everything. Do you really think I'll stay with you after this? Archie, please, Holly begged. We've been married for 30 years. You can't just throw it all away over nothing. Nothing. Archie spat, his voice laced with bitterness. You broke our vows, Holly. You don't get to tell me what I should do. I'm divorcing you. You wanted an expensive gift from Winter, right? Well, she gave you the most expensive gift of all, your entire marriage. Good luck, Holly. You'll need it to pay your lawyer's fees. With that, Archie stormed into the house, leaving the rest of us in stunned silence. The guests quickly followed suit, their disapproving gazes lingering on Holly before they departed. No one wanted to stay after what had unfolded. As Kyle and I prepared to leave, Holly turned her anger on me. Winter, you witch. How dare you destroy my marriage? You had no right. Just like you had no right to threaten mine, I replied coolly. You wanted an expensive gift, and I gave you one. It just happened to cost you everything. You're a horrible woman, Winter. Holly screamed, her voice shaking with fury. This is all your fault. If Archie divorces me, I won't spare you. Just wait. Stop threatening my fiancé, Mom. Kyle interjected, his tone icy. You've lost all shame after wrecking your own marriage. How dare you try to extort gifts from Winter by threatening us? She did the right thing, and Dad is doing the right thing too. As for me, I'm done with you. You're uninvited from the wedding. Don't bother showing up or you'll be kicked out. Holly was a sobbing, incoherent mess by this point, desperately trying to find a way to fix the situation. But Kyle and I had had enough. We turned and walked away, leaving her behind. The next day, Holly showed up at our door, looking desperate. Archie had kicked her out and was already consulting a lawyer about the divorce. With a postnuptial agreement in place, Holly was left with nothing. We live in an at-fault state, so there was no way for her to claim any money or assets from Archie. She had never worked a day in her life and didn't have the funds to hire a lawyer or support herself. Her affair partner had dumped her the moment she told him she was caught. He didn't want a woman like her latching onto him, especially when he had never intended to marry her. With little money and no marriage, Holly was stuck. I truly had given her the best gift ever. Archie moved forward with the divorce, ignoring Holly's pleas. When she showed up at our door, we turned her away and blocked her on all platforms. We even hired security to ensure she couldn't crash our wedding. Our wedding day went off without a hitch. Security did their job, throwing Holly out when she tried to enter the venue. She screamed about how we couldn't do this to her, but we didn't hear a word of it. We were too busy enjoying our special day, with only secondhand accounts from others filling us in later. As far as I know, Holly fled to her sister Felix in another state. Felix refused to house her for more than a month. Now, Holly works as a Walmart employee and lies in a trailer. Meanwhile, Kyle and I are enjoying our marital bliss, supporting his father as he recovers from the betrayal. It seems Holly will be staying far away from us from now on.